Awesome. Okay, so Flutterbutter. So Fluttershy has like a brother apparently, and so her brother, comes home, and basically this guy he's been living with their parents for like a really long time, and her parents just like kicked him out because they're kind of sick, and he's just like kind of like moping around, right? And so he comes over to Fluttershy's house and says, "Hey, Fluttershy," right? Because they have like this instinctual, familial connection, right? So they're like brother and sister. And she's like super, super, super surprised. She's like, "What are you doing, dude? What's going on?" She has no clue, like whatsoever, what's he doing. And so he comes in. He says that he's moved, out of his parents' house, and he got kicked out basically. And he has to come and create a career and find a path for himself and a job, all this, basic growing up, actually doing things mentality, right? And that's sort of exactly what he goes through. And what's cool is like he comes in and he asks for help. He says, "I need help." He raises his hand and he says, "Look, let's freaking do this," right? And so he says, "Hey, can I stay at your place while I try to find a job?" And she's like, "Okay, sure, that makes sense." And so he starts sleeping at Fluttershy's house, and they just start to bond a little bit more. And she tries to help him get work, right? So she gets like a newspaper and says, "Hey, where can you start working? Where can you get a job?" And like most people that are living in their parents' house, he's like, "Oh, I don't know if I want a job, sis. I'm not that good at jobs," right? He has this internal belief, this mindset that he's not good at jobs, he's not good at work, blah, blah, blah. It's this limiting belief, but it's total bogus. Because he's stopping himself from having like huge, huge, huge success in his life by focusing on this awful ideology that like there's not enough and there's scarcity. And you have to move from that scarcity to abundance. You have to move from no to yes and negativity to massive, massive, massive positivity. And that's really the goal here. That's like the huge movement that has to happen in his mind for him to make this shift and to have the success he desires in his life. And so because of that, Fluttershy forces him, says, "Look, you gotta get a job, you gotta freaking go. And he says, okay, so he tries out these new jobs, and he problem is like he's not giving it his all. He's not going 100% because he has no reason to, right? He's just gonna live with his sister, and he doesn't really care. He doesn't have a motive. He doesn't have like that overarching long-term goal pulling him towards it. He has nothing really going for him in terms of past successes or experiences. And so because of that, it's a very, very, very low level of self-confidence. He gets fired from some of his first jobs, he quits some of the other ones, and he just can't really make it work. But then like his parents come and they say, "Look, you've got to make this work. There's no option, right? It's all you." And when he realizes that it's all him and it's independence, like he must do what he must do, like he is on his own. That's when he gets serious about it. Goes out and starts to enroll in like hair cutting school. And so he starts to learn, how to cut hair, which is cool, I guess. That's kind of what he likes apparently. And so he goes to hairdressing school, and pretty quickly, I guess, graduates. Doesn't take that much apparently. I'm pretty sure it's a little bit harder than what he went through. But he goes through it, and he graduates, passes, and comes home. And what's cool is like his parents are super, super proud of him because he just like finally completed something. But for him to get to this point, it took so much coaching from Fluttershy. And he had to use this relationship as a baseline for his progress in education, right? Because he was not like personally ready or fundamentally, able to even have the confidence. He just like couldn't do it on his own. And so he used like Fluttershy was able to push him over the edge and push him to a whole new level of achievement and growth and success by giving him the movement and the perseverance and the confidence and the personal stamina to make it through this hairdresser school. And so that's why it's so important that he had this relationship, because on his own it would have been ridiculously difficult. By leveraging the strength of the two of them together and the mastermind they created, all of a sudden he's able to achieve the success he desires and make it through this hairdressing school. To really go out there and crush it and make his whole newfound career in a space that he didn't really even know existed before, but now it's like his thing, right? And that is so cool. So he comes home and he's like, hey, I'm a graduate, isn't that awesome? Everyone thinks he's the coolest guy ever. And then like something kind of interesting happens. So like the first thing is like this idea of external validation. So he has his family around him, he has his sister, his parents, and he looks to them for validation rather than turning inside to himself, which is where you really do want to have most of your validation, right? You want to have most of your happiness and your success generated by yourself. Like you're proud of your actions and what you do and what you accomplish and what you complete. But for him, it's like this is one of the first things he's ever completed. Yet he wasn't like 100% happy with himself. He was looking to others to self-serve. And so this is sort of this idea, like you've got to be 100% happy with yourself. And then when you present it to other people and you tell them what happened and you tell them, you take in their opinions, like those opinions should just be icing on the cake. It should just be helping you to get better and better results, because they're just stacking onto your initial positivity. Because you are so positive, all right? Is that cool? And so that's the goal here, and it's super cool because he does it with Fluttershy, and then they have that success that they desire. He makes it out of school, and he goes, and I guess he starts to sort of like be a hairdresser at the time. It's interesting because what happens at the end of the episode is, he comes home and he's got his degree and all that stuff. But he stands up with his parents and he says, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna leave Fluttershy's house because Fluttershy's kicking him out. She's sick of him on the couch. And he asks his parents, hey, is it okay if I come home for a couple of days and sleep in my room? Would you make my bed? Would you do all this stuff for me? Would you cook my dinner? He asks me to go home. Parents, they feel bad for him. So they say yes. So in reality, there's very little change in his life. Why? Because he does not internally have the motivation. With Fluttershy by his side, he finds it, but as soon as he's out of her life, she can't be his babysitter forever. Flies away, flows away. So you have to have this internal shift, this internal journey that you go through. You have that change, you have that epiphany, so that the effects of friendship last forever. Or, of course, you could have the friendships around you forever, but for this situation, he just can't stay with Fluttershy forever. And so you need to either have the friendships last forever, or have the impacts and the lessons ingrained inside you, so that they have the impact that they need to have the change in your life that you desire. So you can fulfill that peak potential and have total and complete life growth and prosperity, which is like the coolest thing ever, right? So, yeah, that's that one. Okay, cool. So spice up your life. This one's super fun. So there's this huge new restaurant, near Rarity's Place in Manhattan, and on one side there's like Dad, right? And so he's like, this guy, he's like super proud of his restaurant and his family and their culture. They're kind of like Indians, sort of. And he has this big restaurant that he runs. And then he's got like his wife. And so she's like the cook, and she does, all the food stuff. And so they have like this awesome restaurant that Rarity and Pinkie Pie stumble into one day. Now the problem with like Manhattan and like Manhattan dining is that it's based on like this star system, right? So they have like this one food chef that comes into like every single restaurant and rates it out of 5 stars, like most competitive dining restaurants, stuff like that. And so they have like super good food, according to like Rarity and Pinkie Pie, and like it's awesome stuff. But the problem is like it doesn't appeal, so that the person who comes and gives the stars is like one person who does it for like all these restaurants, and they focus on like these like teeny little intricate flavors and this minuscule, like it's like all like the blandness, and it's just very focused on like an extremely specific high dining taste that isn't really applicable to a vast majority of people. And so because they make their food tasty and not like very specifically intricate and complicated, and not really tasty, like they don't really get a solid rating, but they have like a really, really great restaurant. But it's tough, they're like struggling because nobody comes in their restaurants and they have like what, 1 or 2 stars, right? And so Pinky and Rarity, they come together and they try to figure out like what's the best way to make this grow? What's the best way to have success here? And they have like conflicting views and opinions, and it's really interesting.
Here's what I know. If you want to succeed, you must follow the trends, that's the key. If you want to show that you've got what it takes, you must be what they want you to be. Here's what I know. Your food is so good, the flavor's so fancy and free. You just need to show that unique sense of taste. Go on, be yourself, let them see. It's gonna work, I know it's gonna work. It's gonna work out just fine, trust me. It's gonna work, I swear it's gonna work. It's gonna work out just fine, you'll see. You need to change if you want to compete, but fear not, for I know what to do. I know it feels strange, but trust me when we're done, we'll make sure that you're our hit too. Don't ever change, being different is good. Don't let what others do be your cue. Never rearrange, cause some pony said you should. Just trust your heart, it will know what to do. It's gonna work, I know it's gonna work. It's gonna work out just fine, trust me. It's gonna work, I swear it's gonna work. It's gonna work out just fine, you'll see. Be unique, just be the same. Trust your heart, you'll make your name. We'll help you every step of the way, because we know what you need to do, and you should know it too. It's gonna work, I know it's gonna work. It's gonna work out just fine, trust me. It's gonna work, I swear it's gonna work. It's gonna work out just fine, you'll see.
So Pinky helps, the girl, and Rarity helps the guy. And they have a total and complete lack of transparency. And because of this, they both go in like completely opposite directions with how they think this restaurant should move forward and how they should succeed. And when Pinky looks, they have this goal, right? They want to do it together. They want to be happy. But the problem is like Rarity thinks they should like try to fit in with everybody else and just change and be the same as everybody else. And then Pinky's like sticking with their core and their foundation and what they love and what they're passionate about. And for them, that is their quality food, their quality environment, right? And so it's these two conflicting sides, pushing back and forth. And they have to figure out a way to make it work. So Pinky comes and they just did all this advertising about how this place is so different from everything else. Because there was no transparency. She didn't know what Rarity was doing and change it to make it the same as everything else. And they realized that like they need to come together and they need to agree and they need to have faith. And for the two that are running it, the owners, they're going to be the people that are here every single day after all of this happens. And so what needs to happen is they have to function in a way that works for these two. And so they come back and they look at this and they say, okay, well, what's really going on here? And they realize that like the restaurant has to be run the way that they want to run the restaurant. And they can't like force them to change. They can't come into some outside force. Because they try, all these like fancy foods and the fancy way to make it, and they try copying everyone, but it just doesn't taste good. And to them, they just can't see themselves creating food doesn't taste good. It is a pain for them. And it just is not a reliable way for them to grow and scale their company and their restaurant, right? It's tough business, but they know that they want to do it. And they want to do it because they're passionate about it, right? And so they stick with their core. And Rarity and Pinky, they have to come together and have total and complete transparency. And the instant that they do that, they get rid of this line between the two. And they reunite them, not under some dumb star system, they reunite them with their core and what they care about. And they realize that the food is the most important part for both of them. And so they come together and they bond over this food. And they have this great, great, great connection. And they realize that that's what they want to focus on. That's the goal. That's the dream for both of them, right? It is so important they focus on that they totally get rid of all the crap that everyone else thinks needs to happen. And instead they go on the one path that's unique to them and that they know will have the biggest impact on the restaurant and on their life, and allow them to focus exclusively on what they absolutely love to do, which is so, so, so important. And in the end, they have a huge, huge, huge success because they're genuine and they're authentic. How they present themselves, how they present their cuisine, and how they present the world around them. Because they know that the only way to succeed is to be genuine. And that's exactly what they do by going back to their core, sticking with their tasty food and just like upping the marketing. And it's just not changed, but it's them. And they stick with them. And they keep pushing and pushing and pushing. You just have to get it in front of more people until it's a success. And that's exactly what happens, which is the coolest thing ever. And then Pinky and Rarity learn they need to be on the same page. They need to have transparency. They know what each other are doing. And they can work towards the same common goal without like stepping on each other's toes, which is awesome. All right, cool. So Stranger Than Fan Fiction. This one's fun. So Rainbow Dash, again, she really likes Daring Do, and obviously she met Daring Do, was in some of the books, and so she goes to like this convention for Daring Do, and and she meets Quibblebell, and Quibble is like a huge Daring Do fan, just like Rainbow Dash, and they connect over like knowing so much about the series and the books and all these fine details and how cool the costumes are, yada yada. I mean, they just knock it off, right? Huge fun time. Because they love Daring Do. And so after they meet and after they chat it up, they like so like Daring Do's real, right? And so Caballeron, and again like the villain from the series, and the villain is there, and the villain's offering like live tours of the jungle and all that, and like fun tourist attraction things. And so Rainbow Dash and Quibble go on this new live tour, and basically like these guys just like chain them up and trap them because they want to lure out Daring Do, since Rainbow Dash is a close friend, right? And so it makes sense you can't kidnap someone's friend and they'll come and try to save them. So that's pretty much like exactly what happens. And so Daring Do comes and tries to save them. They come, they say, oh, we got to come together, because they have this connection, right? It's so much more powerful than like anything else in their life, and they know that they'll always like be with each other, right? Because in the past, what have they done? They had experiences together, they've had successes together, they've built confidence in their relationships, and they've given tremendous amounts of significance and value to each other through the interactions that they've had. They've been massively impactful to themselves and people around them. It had a huge, huge, huge impact they want for every single thing that they do. And then obviously that's translated into the books, it's translated into her professional career based solely on this growth they've had together, and so they're like super, super close, right? So this keeps going on, it goes on and on and on. And what's cool is like they basically just like totally leave the convention and go into the middle of the jungle. And Quibble, he like for the whole time this is going on, he thinks the whole thing is like a total fraud, like it's completely fake. He doesn't believe, doesn't have faith in Rainbow Dash or Daring Do or the villains. He thinks all of it is just total bogus. And so they get to this huge pyramid where there's like an idol inside that they're trying to steal. And this idol is like, so Daring Do and Rainbow, they want to get this idol before he does, so that they can like save it, right? And as they're working through the process, as they're going through the system, as they're going through this huge, huge pyramid with the villains, Quibble like still doesn't believe anything he feels, so he doesn't take it seriously, and because of that, like he almost like falls into a trap and like gets poked by a spear and dies, which is like pretty intense. And so when he faces like sudden death, all of a sudden he starts to realize, whoa, maybe this is legit. Maybe I should like actually take this seriously. And he finally is convinced by the pure action and reality of the situation. It's something important that they should focus on, pay attention to, and they could fundamentally shift like everything, right? And he realizes that there's like actually daring do, right? Which is like super, super powerful. But the more important overarching image from it is at the beginning, he's like super, super skeptical. And so many times, you have this new idea, this new image of this new opportunity that comes up. And people are like ridiculously skeptical about it. And they don't trust it, or they don't trust maybe someone behind it. I don't know. And they stay away from it, they avoid it. When if they just tried it, just embraced it at the beginning, gave it that chance it needed, it would have a huge, huge, huge impact and massive success with everything that they're doing. It just has to give it that chance to start. And so with him, he gives it this chance to start when they're in the pyramid. And he realizes that this is totally legit. And so because of that, he joins forces. They come together. They expand their team, right? So they've got, Rainbow, Daring Do, and now they have Quibble. So it's growing the mastermind, it's growing the power base, it's growing everything together so that they're more powerful because they have greater numbers. And those greater numbers fundamentally expand everything that they're able to do. And because of that, they make it here, and they use all three of their skills to outsmart and just like outmaneuver, the Cavaleron and the bad guys, make to the end of that success road, and absolutely crush it by getting to this final portion and snagging this trophy, flying at the top, and running away as the pyramid collapses behind them. They have this huge escape, this huge success, only because they're able to convince this newfound individual to join their social group, to join their movement, join their culture, and to stick with them to the extent that they can maneuver through a difficult situation, get out of this tough situation, and then make it back to safety, to clarity, and a total and complete normality. And the other side of a huge, huge adventure is this idea that it starts off slow, it starts off boring, but as soon as it starts to peak up, you've got to have your belief here, because it explodes in significance to a certain point, to a peak where it plateaus. And after that plateau, it's down, down, and down, and down. Only after you accept this as a reality. So that's your goal, right? Is to get there as fast as possible, to get to the top as fast as possible, top of the belief curve. You want to have total and complete belief in anything that you're doing, because the instant that you believe wholeheartedly and 100% in every single thing you are doing, all of a sudden the productivity skyrockets, the output is geometrically increased, because you know for a fact that you deserve, and that what you're doing matters, and that you will succeed, and you have the impact and the influence you want on the world around you to change everything. Because you are the winner, and the way you get there is by having the confidence, more importantly, by having the expanding social group that gets you the results that you desire and allows you to have the impact that you need for the success in your life, which is like the coolest thing ever. And that's really the goal here, is to just expand and expand and expand, and then take newfound friends through the journey that you have to take them to get them to be part of your social group, and turn them into members of your mastermind if you think there'll be significant positive impact, influence on the whole group, and allow you to expand new heights, not just based on yourselves, but based on the combination of ideas that comes from you and people around you, and more importantly, this new member who's going to introduce a new perspective, new background, and new methodology in the entire group. That's really powerful, and that's the cool thing about growing over time, especially with your friends, is as you have more and more and more friends, just starts to snowball into a significant, more greater and greater and greater effects in all aspects of her life, which is like the coolest thing ever. Whew, okay, cool. So the cart before the ponies. This is like super cool. So there's this huge race that they're doing, and they have like this hill, and then they have this track, and they will have like a finish line. And it's for the school, right? So it's led by Cheerly, and it's for all the kids in school. So all the kids, they come up to the starting line, and they build their carts. So they all build like little box carts. And they're gonna have like this big race in front of the whole town, and everyone's gonna see it, and it's gonna be the coolest thing ever. Now Applejack, you know, she works with her sister. So like Sweetie Belle, you know, the CMC, right? They all go to their sisters, and Scootaloo goes to Rainbow Dash for like help and for assistance making their cart. And so it makes so much sense for them, you know, because they want help from adults, right? And so what's cool is like there are 3 like special prizes for the racers, and the 3 prizes. The first one is speed. Second one is tradition. Third one's creativity. And what the 3 decided to do is, you know, traditionally, you know, Scootaloo is like all about speed. But for this special race, she really wants to be like creative, right? And so same thing with Appleblue. Traditionally, she's like very, very, very traditional. But for this one, she wants to be different. She wants to be speedy. Appleblue, yeah, AB. Okay, cool. And then Sweetie Belle, you know, she's usually very, very creative, right? This artistic form. But she wants to be like super traditional for this race, and that's the prize that she wants to win. So they're all, you know, a little bit different than they normally are. And so as they partner up with their sister, you know, like their big sisters, their mentors, whatever, they start to have like this super huge problem where, you know, so Scootaloo works with Rainbow Dash, right? And Rainbow Dash wants to be the fastest one ever. And so she focuses on speed. And then similarly, Applejack, she's working with Appleblue, and she doesn't focus on speed, she focuses on tradition. And similarly, you know, Rarity, she doesn't focus, she works with Sweetie Belle, but she's not gonna focus on tradition, she's gonna focus on creativity to make the coolest float ever. And what happens is they come together with their sisters to work on these floats. And they make like the most, it's basically like they take over. They care about their own perspective, their own desires, their own wants, and their own vision of the car more than the actual racers, you know, their younger sisters. And they care so much about it that they overtake the design process and overpower their younger sisters and build the cars that they want to build so that they can race them for themselves. And we're going to see how that works out right here.
Go! Can't we go any faster?
Faster? Don't be silly. This is perfect.
Check me out, racing the derby. Check out my old-fashioned cart. Check me out, racing the derby in my original work of art. Check me out, faster than ever. There's no pony can catch me now. Let me out, I'd do it over if I only knew how. Giddy up, derby racers. Giddy up, derby racers. Giddy up, derby racers. Go, go, go! My cart's the most original, designed with imagination.
My cart's the most traditional, just plain no complications.
Look at me, I am the ace. Might as well give up the chase. Wish we could stop this race, start again and do it our way. Having any fun yet? Nope. Maybe if we could go a little faster. Giddy up, derby racers. Giddy up, derby racers. Giddy up, derby racers. Go, go, go!
Gotta get some attention if I want that ribbon.
Gotta push the limits further, blow away the competition.
competition. Gotta coast on through, just relax, we're gonna cruise it.
Guess I don't really care, since we're clearly gonna lose it.
See, every pony's watching, presentation in soft glory.
Just past you even faster, speed is king, end of story.
Bigger, bolder, down the track. Up the view from the back of the pack.
Won't stop, we're on the attack. Too late to take it all back. Giddy up, Derby racers. Giddy up, Derby racers. Giddy up, Derby racers. Go, go, look
So they like have this huge crash and crush everything, which is just, it's insane. And so like basically like, everyone like gets destroyed, and so they have to like start all over, which is ridiculous. And they realize, the sisters, they realize that they've like just stolen all the thunder, all the happiness, all the light from the kids, right? That had their goals and they had their visions, and they ask for help. And so often, you know, well, see yourself, you ask for help, and then the person comes and someone helps you, and instead of just like helping alongside you, they like overtake the entire design process and crush like all of the original vision in exchange for like their ideas. Instead of mending them together, instead of coming onto like the original plan and working towards the original goal, which is what these kids ask their sisters to do, they take over. And it's exactly what happened here. They like authority, as adults and as above them, they saw themselves as higher respected beings. And so because of that, they totally like went above every single thing that they said and just did not listen to them whatsoever. And it took like complete and total failure and massive destruction of everybody's work at the end of the day for them to realize that like this race was not about them, but it was about the kids. And they have to let them make their cards. That's exactly what happens. They have to do the whole thing all over again because everyone gets destroyed, and they let them do it their way. And they listen. They use the power of the ear, and they say, okay, what is it that you want? What can I do for you? And they're so much more happier, more fulfilled, and they win, you know, what they want in the race, and they get their goal. They have their achievements, not because the sisters, like they did, you know, their own thing better, but because they listen. And that's why it's so important. You listen, like especially if people ask you to help them with something. What is the actual goal? Not what is your goal, what would you like from it? No. What could they get from this? It would have the biggest impact possible in their life. Because the instant that you start asking that question and thinking in terms of how you can help others, everything changes. And you become so much more valuable in the marketplace. It's absolutely ridiculous. And that's exactly what happens here. So they make this transition and they go back to doing what they should have done in the first place, which is listen and do what they want and focus on their satisfaction instead of their own personal gain. They sacrifice themselves for the happiness and the overarching victory of their sisters. And that's the goal, right? Is self-sacrifice for the determining, for like the growth of the relationship, which is so powerful.